We want to resume our program now with the induction of Harry Amana. That's right. Who, as you can hear, brought his own Amen choir. There you go. Amen. We're gonna begin with the induction of Harry Amana to the NC Journalism Hall of Fame. Harry is a professor emeritus of the journalism school, where he was the advisor of the Carolina Association of Black Journalists. You know, A's didn't come easy in his classes, which might be why I never took one. But a lot of my friends did, and they really enjoyed him. But I met Harry my senior year. Like a bunch of really important things happened in my life. When he advised me that I really needed to go to the short course, that the NABJ short course at North Carolina A&T, where I've made some powerful, thank you, where I've made some powerful relationships that still exist to this day. One of my coworkers, Anthony Wilson at my station, is the lead instructor for that program. He's been the lead instructor for decades now, I believe, but that's where I first met him. Harry joins 138 members of the NC Journalism Hall of Fame, which began in 1981 with an inaugural class that included Charles Kuralt, Vermont Royster, and Tom Wicker, among others. Introducing Harry is Richard Cole, Dean Emeritus and Distinguished Professor of the school. Richard is himself a Hall of Famer after having led the school to great heights in 26 years as Dean until 2005. When I think of Dean, I love you, Dean King, but this was my Dean when I was here. He remains a force on the faculty, leading programs for international scholars, mentoring students and faculty, and providing the wisdom of his perspective and experience. He says that's enough about him. He's won too many awards. He's been honored too many times, but he is an institution to be reckoned with, so we have to acknowledge that. Richard.
Maybe I should be in an institution. I want to talk about Harry. Harry Amana is a good soul. He deserves this Journalism Hall of Fame without question. He was an award-winning journalist at such newspapers as the Philadelphia Inquirer, the Detroit Free Press, and also with Associated Press. He was an award-winning professor at several universities, overall for more than 4 decades, and today is still teaching students to be responsible, accurate, and fair, and most of all, to tell the truth. Here in Chapel Hill, he was the first black professor in our school, and he served with distinction for more than a quarter of a century. But I don't want to talk about his positions and honors. I want to talk about Harry as a person. Harry always stood tall. What I mean is that he stood up for what he believed, what he thought was right. He championed causes, unpopular or not, and always in a dignified and reasonable way. He did not go off half-cocked. He worked in public and behind the scenes to make this tired old world just a little better. His students loved him. They saw themselves as Harry's kids with a capital K. Hundreds looked to him not just for journalistic and career advice, but for wisdom. Anybody who went into Harry's office saw his bulletin board with all kinds of photos of former students as they married, became parents, celebrated professional triumphs. It was a Harry's Kids yearbook. One of Harry's kids was David Squires, who has had a wonderful career himself. David was a student here when Harry first joined the faculty. Harry looked young to be a professor. David asked Harry for his age, and Harry said 38. That's old, David said. Harry advised David many times during his career, and when David turned 38 himself, he reminded Harry of the comment about 38. Now you have to remember that Harry had run track for years and had stayed in shape. And also remember that the ladies had always run after Harry. So David looked at Harry, so Harry looked at David and saw that he had gained weight and gave him a piece of wisdom. If you get fat, your wife will cheat on you. After that, David went to the gym and he recently celebrated his 22nd wedding anniversary. Another one of Harry's kids credits him for all her journalistic success. Rochelle Riley of the Detroit Free Press says she has accepted every job, every victory, every award, including a piece of a Pulitzer Prize in 2009, in Harry's name. She always credits him when she's at the podium. Still another of his kids is Bridget Ellison. Harry encouraged her to get into journalism as a student. He told her about the National Association of Black Journalists. She got a scholarship from NABJ that made it possible for her to come to Carolina. Now she's a news anchor with WKMG TV in Orlando. Hundreds of former students feel the same way. They know how much Harry cares and how much he has helped them in their careers and has counseled them when life brings troubles. Jackie Charles of the Miami Herald remembers some personal advice. The Herald was in a shake-up, replacing reporters, transferring others. Everybody said she'd be selected to move up to Metro, to the Central City desk. But when the announcement came, her name was not there. She picked up the phone and called Harry. "You lied to me," she said. "You told me if I worked hard and kicked butt, I'd move up to Metro." Well, I didn't. She broke down and cried. Harry's advice was practical. He said, "Don't let them see you crying. Go to the bathroom and call me back." Jackie did call back and has learned not to cry. Today she covers Haiti for the Miami Herald, and she can't be here tonight because she's there covering the funeral of Baby Doc and the aftermath of his death. Harry's nearly always the first person people call when they need help. He saved John McCann when John was a student here. John had his first big story for Black Ink, a campus newspaper. The story, which was printed, was about a woman who was a former drug addict who was helping other addicts get clean. It was a big story with heart. But it turned out to be fake. The woman had never used drugs. So John thought he faced a libel suit. Scared, he went to Harry, who was at fault, of course, because Harry was the one who had told John to change his major from radio, television, motion pictures to journalism. Well, Harry worked his magic again. He got up a campaign to pick up virtually all the Black Ink issues and destroy them before anybody read the story. Harry's mentoring often comes full circle because of some of the Harry's kids now teach in our school. That same John McCann who now espouses accuracy and fairness in his reporting at the Herald-Sun in Durham. He taught a section of news writing in our school this spring. Another former student, Valerie Fields, is now a senior lecturer in public relations and runs a student organization, Heel Print Communications, in our school. The stories about Harry go on and on. Just one more. A student here was a summer intern at a big newspaper and was assigned to go interview members of a family where the son had shot and killed his father. The father was a preacher but abused his wife. The intern drove to the family's house but was afraid to ask questions in such an emotional situation. She couldn't get out of the car and walk to the door and knock on it. Instead, she drove back to the newspaper office and told her editor nobody was home. Back here that fall, after the internship, she explained it all to Harry. He looked at her sternly and said, "First, always tell the truth. Second, always knock on the door." That's become her reporting mantra, always tell the truth, always knock on the door. All these stories show that Harry's what I call a good soul. He cares about others. He helps people. He builds bridges between people and groups and organizations. He tries to bring them just a little closer together. And that's what this tired old world needs. It needs more of, more togetherness, less apartness. Now here's Harry.
Thank you. I forgot my my pad, but fortunately I sent my notes to myself on email. So a couple of years ago, a local publication published a book, Views of Chapel Hill. I think it was called 27 Views of Chapel Hill. And I had an essay in that book, which the editors chose to title No Way, because in 1978, when I came here for an interview, and I just wasn't impressed with the landscape, and I went back after the interview. I said, there's no way I'm coming back here. But then I did some research. I checked out Chapel Hill. I talked to some people. And at the time, one of the people who mentored me and really inspired me to come was Dr. Sonia Haynes Stone, who passed away shortly after, but after whom the Cultural Center here is named. And so I did come. I came on a 3-year contract, and I stayed for 28 years. What can I say? This induction is like a family reunion for me, with my immediate family and my extended North Carolina family, starting with Richard. I asked Richard to make the introduction because it was under his leadership for 26 of my 28 years at the J School that I had such a wonderful and fulfilling. Don't you know that my phone is ringing? Hasn't rung all night. Modern technology. It was with this support that I was able to take leaves of absence to work at the Philadelphia Inquirer, to direct a communication program in Atlanta for a year and a half, to take a semester sabbatical in New Orleans, to leave for a month in the middle of the semester to travel on a fact-finding mission throughout South Africa, to go twice a week each time to Poland to participate in an international communications conference on minorities in the media. Thank you, Richard. Thank you for everything. So I've been here since January '79, and every time I return, it's like returning to family. At some point during this time, Phil Meyer and I got together and persuaded my buddy Chuck Stone to come down here and join us for over 10 years. And I came down here for Chuck's induction into this Hall of Fame. And then sadly, I came down here not long after that, a memorial service for Chuck, who had passed away. I'd known Chuck for many, many years in Philly when he first started, when he was the one who first suggested that we needed a national association. Well, at that time, a Philadelphia Association of Black Journalists. The Philadelphia chapter actually is older than the National Association. Everyone at my table is a part of my extended family. Professor Lisa Delpit, who celebrated with me in 1974 when I received the National Award for Features Writing. We got drunk. My son Selassie, who's a Carolina alum and who swears he bleeds Carolina blue. His wife, and he played in a band. Fred talked about being a cheerleader. He was in a band for 4 years, man. And in his senior year was the year that we won the championship with Dean Smith in '93. And at that same year, in the Peach Bowl, we beat Mississippi. Yeah, so he had a great senior year. And a year after he got out of school, actually, he was a graduate. He was an alum, but he would wear that striped shirt, you know, the blue and white shirt, and he would carry his instrument case, and he'd wait till the last minute and rush into basketball games like he had just missed it. And they would sit him in the band section. I told him he should have been contributing. He and his wife, Angie, are elementary school teachers working hard in Greensboro. And son, when I'm king of the world, doctors, dentists, and elementary school teachers are going to be the highest paid professionals. Also present with them is my granddaughter, 5 months, May. She was born in May, Harriet. Well, they put something else on the birth certificate. They put another name on the birth certificate, but as far as my friends know, and all my relatives, her name is Harriet. This is my buddy James and his lady. James is the brother that I never had in North Carolina, the North Carolina brother that I never had, and his lady Claudia. Ayana, my adopted daughter, who I brought into my life when she was just 1. Carol, my baby mama, she's my former wife. This is Selassie's mom. Richard, of course, and Jan Yap, my best friend and colleague at the J School. I love you. And my former students. I got 2 tables full of them there. That's why it was like homecoming. And they're all doing things. That's what's so nice. They're broadcasters, advertisers. I have a tenured journalism professor who's now running the journalism department at North Carolina Central. I have a couple of people who are teaching at the journalism school. One of whom, she actually was not one of my students. I was her mentor for many, many years, and she called me for everything, but she never took my class. She was one of those, she was sort of like you, Fred. She was one of those kids who told me that, you know, I really like you, I like you as a friend, I want to be your friend, but if you were to give me a C, I would not speak to you again. So she never, and when I came here for Chuck's memorial service, she waited over by the side until I was finished talking to people because she wanted to take me upstairs to show me that she had an office. I can't believe that kid got an office. So I want to thank the J School, all of my colleagues who are here, all of my former kids, I still call them my kids. The first person I ran into when I came to register yesterday was a young lady from the Miami Herald, who I remember was a kid who, well, actually USA Today now, right? Yeah. Who, actually, she just never thought she should get anything but an A. And I remember her saying, coming in my office crying one time because she thought somebody was going to actually give her an A- or a B. And I have students from, Rochelle, Rocky, columnist for the Detroit Free Press. Yeah, Phyllis Fair, Kunzi, Jackie, Linda was the old group, Ressa Versola, Liz, my love, Zubritsky, who came here as a science major and wanted to be a journalist, and as a graduate student, moved into journalism. She's now running things at NASA. Kim, I miss anybody? Oh, and Sam Fullwood, man, thanks. Sam graduated in '78, the year before I came. But Sam was on the search committee, and he was one of the students who raised a little hell in 1978 and said, you know, we need to have a person of color on the faculty. And so when they brought me down here for interviews, Sam was one of those people who was in the fold, who peppered me and ran me through it. He and Jan Yop was one of those people too. Oh, and Trevi, Professor Trevi, yeah, another professor. So when I look around, and Rhonda, I know, she was going to really get me. Rhonda is the second of 3 generations. Her mother was the second black woman admitted to the university. Rhonda is a graduate of the journalism school. Her daughter is a senior at the journalism school. So I feel like a grand professor. And then, of course, there's my baby, Lori. And Lori, along with Andrea Shaw, who couldn't be here. Andrea's an editor at the Times-Picayune. They were the two who gave me my tied for 4th largest event in my life. First one was the birth of my son. Second one was the adoption of my daughter. The third was my grandbaby Harriet. The 4th was the surprise 60th birthday party that they gave me. I mean, they floored me, and they came from all over the place. And this, the biggest. So, thank you all, my immediate family, my larger family, Richard, Jan, J School. Every time I come back, it'll be a family reunion. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And congratulations again, Harry Amana. Go ahead, you can give another round of applause. Still teaching us that if the ladies are chasing you and you email the notes to yourself, make sure you turn the ringer off on your phone.